Alright, Mopar people, welcome back to the channel. I'm just Mopar Joe. Today we're working on our piggy bank horsepower 360 for the Ramcharger revival. My plan is get the camshaft agreed, get the pistons put in it. So I'll show you where we're at. Hopefully you saw the last video. Me getting the crank put in. Joe and I got it cleaned up, put in, cams in. I just hung my new chain and stuff on here. And I got a new Cloy's chain. I was going to actually reuse the old one. It felt nice and tight until I cleaned it, and that sucker loosened way on up, so it flaps in the wind. The Cloy seems pretty nice. It's a good stock style, but you had a double row, so that's good to go. So I just have it bolted in place now, just be able to roll everything together. My first step, I believe, going to be, I'm going to mic these journals. That's why I had those rolled up. To me, it's easier to actually stand here and mic versus try to do it on the table over there, and I can just roll it up anywhere I want to. I'm gonna jot down my rod numbers and throw a couple bearings in my rods here. So rods and pistons are totally cleaned up. All that's nice. I got my caps out here, and all the caps are numbered, obviously, so there's no confusion about where they came from. But all that's good to go. Get our degree wheel put on after I stick my number 1 in. But before I put number 1 in, I want to check that rod bearing clearance. All right, if you will recall, I checked all these rods before, and I went ahead. You can see I have a 7 or a 6. I got a couple different readings on them before. I went ahead and rechecked number 1 because that's what I'm focusing on right now. And I got that, I believe it was 2.1245. So I double checked that. I locked my mic. I set up my dial bore gauge with it. And now we can check the bearing clearance inside this one rod. I did go ahead and float my wrist pin here. I actually, and I know plastic gauge is good for a lot of things, but since I have already had the gauge out and all that, I might as well go ahead and check these out. I don't think I'll have an issue at all. And if I can, there we go. Get you where you can see it too. I've already checked it, but I want you to see it. I was showing right there. We go. So just barely under 2 thousandths. Get her to come down. Yeah. So I wouldn't call that 1 3/4. I would call that just under 2. I'm totally fine with that. Anywhere between 1.5 to 2.5, I think is be nice for this. It's a street engine. So I'm gonna get this thing pulled apart, get my ring set up for it, and let me see, I had a little scratches on my skirt there, but for the most part, this cleaned up really nicely. I'm gonna get my ring set up, and we can get that number 1 piston in. Got my rings out and open. This is my old KB sheet from my 400 when I did it. And since these are old school KB 509s that have the non-symmetrical or asymmetrical valve reliefs, I had to look up the ring gap for them. So here we say second ring naturally aspirated is 4 thousandths per inch of bore minimum. That'll get us 16 thousandths. And right now I got a second ring dropped here, got a top ring dropped here. Second ring and the top ring both are 22 thousandths. So all that's good, except on the top ring, there's our handy dandy chart, we need 6.5 thousandths. And we are, just like their example, 4-inch bore times 6.5 thousandths is 26 thousandths. Ignore that mark right there. But yeah, so we need to open our top ring up to 26 thousandths. I got my ring grinder ready that I got from Joe, and I'll make quick work of that. Knock those top rings off. I'm gonna do them cylinder by cylinder. Probably seen this in a different video of mine, but I'm gonna show you again in case you're new. This is the number 1 piston, denoted by the rod. These are pressed on. So we know this is the front of the engine. I saved this sheet from Total Seal a while back, and it just tells you basically where to orient your rings at. And I've been doing them like that ever since. These rings are actually from E-Direct. I got these from Ed at Ed's Machine. But basically they're Hastings rings, and what we're doing is just going to mark the orientation of them. So if we know that's the front of our engine, I'll just draw you an arrow for fun here, just like that. It wants our top compression ring basically on top, so I'll do that right there. Give it a quick little mark. The second ring is exactly opposite of that, so we'll be here. Boom. And then our oil, let's see, top oil ring gap, they put it on this side, and bottom, excuse me, on that side. And then there we go. Then it just puts your bottom oil ring rail gap all the way over here, opposite side, something like this. So that's it when we look at it. So I just basically copied that chart. One, boom, boom. So 1, 2, 3. So we know that's our second, because I mark it through just like that. And that's the front of the engine. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and mark all my pistons up, so that when I go to slide my rings on, it'll be a lot faster process. Remember my next. So we know this would be number 1. I can even write it on top. This will be 1, 3 will be next to it, and we'll get a large intake valve here and a small exhaust valve next. Start with the oil rail, and the crack points upward, just like that. And if you'll remember, my crack goes on this side, just like that. A couple thin rings. Always be sure to only grab one of those. That's important. Keep that one from spinning. These are pretty flexible. I forget what the ring gap is on them, but we don't want anything stacked over here. There we go. Just like that. Real nice. Roll. There we go. Rail here. There. Or gap rather. And then our section that points upward. It's very close to there. So I also like that for a quick reference when I'm going to knock these in. I always just take a quick look around them and see that it is still there. Here is our second gap ring, and it says top on it. Remember, it goes right there. So I'm going to be careful with this one. It's going to be kind of hard to do on camera, the perfect spot. But I like to give it a little push in. Yeah, there we go. Easy peasy. So now it's in the top groove. I don't always do that, but catch that with my thumb and open it a little bit. You can use a ring spreader. There's guys that have them. I've had people tell me in the past I should get one, but there we go. Come on. There we go. We're into our gap now. And start on down. There we are. Keep my thumb on it. That's it. Now, and I do that, and I like to roll it around. There's no tight spots. Nothing's digging in. I didn't have to file that second ring at all, but the top ring I did, and I went ahead and deburred it also. So there's that ring gap, and my top ring for number 1. I'm gonna reach over my engine and pop it right out. It's been wiped up totally, and there are no markings on it at all. So that means it can go either way. And since it's a thin groove here, it should be a lot easier to pop on. I don't like to actually rush this. It'll probably seem fast because we're doing it on camera. That's it. How easy that was. Number one is ready to go in. I think before I put number one in, I'm going to go ahead and get my other rings on my other pistons so I can just go right in order, knock them in. Start with number one. I'll put my hoses on here for safety. In my little jug here, I've got some Lucas 50/50 mix. This is not actually the synthetic. I just saved that bottle. I used the traditional when I was building stuff like that. I'm gonna put a little bit on the journal right now. Very front. Nice. And I'm gonna put a little dab on my bearing here. You can see the little marks where the dial bore gauge touched it. They're not scratched up or anything, so hopefully that doesn't scare anyone out there. And in here I just got my basic engine oil. I'm gonna take a little acid brush, try to get in my oil rails there. Ring grooves and all. Once that's complete, I like to give them a little bit of spin around. Be sure it's all happy and acclimated with each other. That's what makes those marks important. Top one's lined up. I'll line our second groove up after I spun a little. And our bottoms, let's see. Right there's our gap pointing up. Bring it back. Follow the other two. 1 and 2. So no gaps are lined up anywhere. Looks good to me. I'm gonna put a little bit on the actual skirt too. Hold it just like that. There's my little ring compressor. The tits go down. Grab her up. Just like that. Nice and tight. I'll leave a little bit of skirt hanging out. And we know where the front is because I put an arrow on it earlier. Also the valve reliefs go up. So I'm just sliding this in really easy. Just like that. Find my handy dandy rag. There we go. Special piston installer. Step 1. There we go. My rod is free and clear. My journal's far away, so I can go ahead and give it a little knock here. That's it. One installed. Good view. If I rotate that away, it's going to actually push it toward my rod eventually. Oh, I still have engine oil on that. There's my number 1 cap. You can also see it says number 1, but I'll line my notches up, my numbers up, lube it up. See how nice and stringy that is. Slide that over. There we go. And there's already engine oil on there from earlier when I torqued it. That is it. And a little bit. There she floats. Oh yeah. Like butter. I can put a little of that. Just so where it goes against the cheek of the crank. That'll have some lube as I spin this over. But you know, I like to, if you saw my original series, I I like to spin mine between torquing, just so I know if I had put 2 on here and that was hard to turn, I wouldn't know which one it was. Or if I torqued the whole side down and went to try to spin it, that wouldn't give me very much information. So we got 1 on. I guess I can go ahead and do number 2, and we'll see about degreeing the cam. If we don't get to degree the cam, it's typically easier with just 1 rod, but I think it's going to be fairly easy to spin regardless. And number 2. Same process. Take my cap off. You see my little scratches in the bearing coating, but not in the bearing. All the prep work's what takes it so long, I think. There we go. Ring groove, ring groove, gap, gap. I'll coat her up. Spin it. Very nice. Find my gaps again. There's 1, 1, 1, and top. Hose is on. Don't want to scare anybody out there. I'm going to grab my piston, small valve relief towards the front because it's an exhaust. Just like that. Caps look good. There we go. There we go. That's it. Lube. Toward the front. Drop her down. Nice and clear there. We made it. Off there. Hand's too oldie now. Lube us once again. There's our beautiful cap. Number 2. Find the notch. Notch goes to the notch. I'm gonna put some here too, just because I'm nervous. Clean and beautiful. Notch to notch. 2s are lined up there. I already have engine oil on the threads. I'm going to wipe off my hands before I torque that. It's got nice, I can see the side plate right there. All that feels good. I can even give it a spin. A little more lube on that cheek right there. Won't hurt a thing. Like butter. That one went to 46. She's ruined. It'll never run again. $45.7. We got our side plate. Spins over like a dream. Here's what I like to call a short block completed. You can see our valve reliefs, 1357. We go little big, big little, little big, big little. Same thing over here. Little big, big little, little big, big little. I've got my degree wheel set up, and actually one of the old lifters that came out of this, it was already pumped up, and I cannot depress it at all, so it is basically a solid lifter. That's the best angle I can get on my dial indicator, and it is actually, it's not touching right there, so that's nice. So I found top dead center of my piston stop, went through all the steps. Right now we are going to just follow the comp directions, as we always do. And I've got my gauge zeroed out there if y'all want to follow along with this. We reached maximum lift and zeroed it out. We're going to back the engine up until the indicator reads 100 thousandths. And then we're going to turn the engine forward in normal direction until the dial indicator reads 50 thousandths. So we back her up. 100. Now we come back up on the 50. And yes, this would be easier with one piston in, but I got on a roll getting them all in. She's there, right? There. 50,000. I know a lot of times in my videos, when I degree a camshaft, a lot of people call out a number like your vantage point is different than mine. So what I'm going to do, I've got this wooden dowel, just a wooden stick. I will get down on one knee for us. I'm going to butt it up against the bottom of my socket and then just slide it up like that. So right now I'm going to call that 60 and a half. Remember, it's just, if I just barely touch it there, 60 and a half. And I wrote that down already before. I've checked this once. All right, there's our 0. And back to 50. Pulling our chain tension the entire time. Right to there. And same thing here. Find a rod up to right there. So I called that 153 and a half. Remember, if I'm just barely touching it. Hopefully I can see that. 153 and a half plus 60 and a half. There we are. Add them up, divide by 2, that's a 107. So we like that a lot. I think we're going to leave our 360 there for today. Got a lot done. I appreciate y'all watching, and I will catch you next time. Check out Piggy Bank Horsepower. Type in that hashtag, you'll see a lot of the other builds. I'll put their channel names in the description.